Hi everyone, I'm Nico and I'm a cloud architect at VMware. Welcome to this session called So You Think You Deserve a Promotion? Prove It. We all aspire to get promoted, to do something more rewarding, to do something more interesting, to do something more inspiring. But as you climb up that career ladder, it gets harder and harder to justify your value. Why should you be promoted instead of Jack or Bob or Rachel? Why are you different? So in this talk, I will share some of the lessons I've picked up throughout my career on proving your value to the business. I hope you find it entertaining, I hope you find it funny, and I hope you pick up a couple of good tips along the way. I should start by introducing myself. I'm Nico Vibert, and as you can tell by the accent, I'm French, but I've lived in the UK for over 14 years. I come from a background in the networking industry, and I've been at VMware for about 5 years, first in the NSX team and now in the VMware Cloud team. I blog at nicoviber.com, and I've recently published a book called VMware Cloud Networking and Security. Now, why did I submit this presentation? Well, I've recently gone through an internal promotion process at VMware, and I've learned an awful lot from this process, which was tough, grueling, but also strangely rewarding. And I thought I should really share some of the lessons learned with my peers. So here we go. I'm going to share 10 tips around careers that I picked up throughout my 15 years in IT. And I'm going to talk about how to prove your case as you aim for that promotion. But before we talk about promotion, we need to talk about the actual end goal. Promotion is just one rung up the career ladder. What's your actual end goal? Where do you want to be in 10, 15, 20 years' time? And what inspires you? So let me start by telling you my story. So first, let's go back all the way back to the 80s. Right. So that's me on the right-hand side with my two brothers. And having two older brothers, I would essentially copy their every move. Right. I would try to grow an afro like them. I would try to moonwalk like Michael Jackson, like they did. And finally, I would also be playing with computers. They got into programming, so did I. Playing around with BASIC at the time. And later on, we were one of the first households in France to get internet broadband. So back in 1997, I learned HTML. I think it was probably HTML 1.0 at the time. And I built a directory of my friends, my school friends. It's kind of Facebook, but without being creepy. And a few years later, I was staying in London at my brother's flat, and there was this big book on the bedside table. It was called Cisco Certified Network Associate. I said to my brother, "What's this?" And like, it's a great read. Really, you should read it, Nico. You should really, really read it. And it wasn't a great read. It was actually really boring. But that's how I ended up onto that networking path, and which might be my curse as well as a blessing. The reason I'm telling these stories is sometimes your inspirations come from unexpected sources. For me, it was obviously my family. Maybe for you, it was something else. Something else that inspired me unexpectedly was the Cisco Live Conference 2012. I went to a keynote which probably had a massive impact on my career. You might not know this guy. He's called Dave Evans. And at the time, he was the chief futurist officer at Cisco. Yeah, one of the coolest titles I've ever heard of. And he was talking about things that just blew me away. He was talking about 3D printing and autonomous cars, virtual assistants. And I came out of his sessions absolutely inspired. And I thought to myself, you know what? Maybe one day I can be that person that will inspire others talking on stage. So I went on LinkedIn and I searched for chief futurist jobs. Turns out there wasn't any. But the closest to it was chief technology officers. So I thought, how can I be a CTO? So I talked to my manager, Peter, and I said, I want to be a CTO within the next 12 to 15 years. And, he didn't laugh. He just said, fine, okay, let's get you the skills to get there. So, okay, what does a CTO need to do or be good at, right? A CTO needs industry recognition. He or she needs financial acumen. He or she needs to be recognized at industry level, and that kind of broad technical knowledge. So I review this, I kind of realize that, well, I didn't really have a broad technical knowledge. I was very good at networking, but that was it. I wasn't recognized at the industry level. I didn't really speak at any events, and I didn't really have any business or financial skills. But that's okay, because that was the idea behind building that career plan, was to identify what I needed to work on to get to the end goal. And Peter was actually a good person to speak to, because it turns out that Peter is now a CTO at Dell Technology. Well, Peter told me I should speak with the CTO of Cisco UK, somebody called Ian Fothering. And I had never met Ian at the time. I just dropped him an email and I said, could I shadow you? Could I interview you? Can I work? I like to work out what you do. And he said, I'm a head of technical strategy. I'm a corporate spokesperson, and I do team leadership. And I also asked him for some, his best career advice. And he said, be prepared to do something different, take risks and be uncomfortable, learn from your mistakes. So, and I think that's an advice I would give anybody around tech risks. My first tip of the day is really, be brave and try to shadow a senior stakeholder. And for him or her, it's an ego boost, right? They always welcome the opportunity to be shadow. And for you, you will learn an awful lot. I recently shadowed a CIO, and again, I learned more from it than any training I could ever have done. So that's tip number one for you. So meeting the CTO was great, but I was still missing all the skills. So the first gap was around business and financial acumen. So what I did was an internal consulting course at Cisco, and amongst other things, I learned about financial metrics, and I learned how to read a business annual report. And it's still, again, 7 or 8 years on, still something I do almost every time I would meet a customer. I would read the annual report. And that enables me to link the technical solutions I sell with IT business objectives. All right, so that's tip number two is diversify your skill set. It's great to learn about technology, but you should also focus on your business and financial skills. Something else I had to work on was my technical knowledge. It was very narrowed at the time. So I really had to come out of my silo and learn about other technologies. And I started doing this when I joined VMware, and I started to look at other technologies outside my specialty, which was networking. So learn about virtualization and storage, automation, and cloud. So again, here's a fairly obvious tick, but important to remember: diversify your technical knowledge and come out of your silo. So coming out of your silo is great, but you also must remember to excel in a specific area, right? You need to be able to stand out from the crowd, to differentiate yourself. And that's, for me, how I got my latest job at VMware was like this. When VMware was looking for a cloud architect back in 2018, I said, look, I can cover the whole region, as I speak French and English and Spanish, and I can bring something different to the table by virtue of my networking skills. So again, tip number 4 here is just remember your unique selling point. Know what makes you special. So eventually, I got to present at events like Cisco Live, VMworld, and VMware user groups. And as you can see, I've really tried to fill in the gaps to get the skills to become a CTO. Now, I'm still a long way away from it, but I'm making my way there. I don't even know if I still want to be a CTO, but I'm working on the skills. I'm still working on the skills to get there. And presenting at VMUGs and VMware, it wasn't easy for me. It wasn't comfortable. I'm not a traditional VMware person. I'm a network guy. I don't really remember the first time I've done a vMotion, like many VMware fans do. Um, but I really enjoy presenting at VMware user groups because of the network I've built and because of the experience I learn by watching other presenters. I get better. Um, and I would really recommend, get out of your comfort zone, volunteer to present at events like, like VMUGs, and your network will just grow exponentially. If you really want your career to go up to the next level, you need to start treating your career as your business. Right? So tip number 6 is listen to what Jay-Z has to say. Right? And seriously, you're the CEO, CIO, CFO, CMO of your own career. Well, let me elaborate. Let's start with CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. And marketing could be different things, right? There is the branding aspect and what people think about you, say about you. And if you're listening to this session, you've probably watched Amanda Blevin's brand sessions that she's presented over the years. Great sessions, by the way. But be outside of the brand, you need to talk about, we need to talk about publicity. You need to create publicity for yourself, and people need to find out about you. For me, most of my, I suppose, publicity is through my blog. Just a concrete example. When I was looking for a name for my blog, I couldn't find something interesting or original, so I settled for nicoviber.com. And I'm glad I did, because if you look at some of the statistics on Google search, turns out that over 500,000 people would have seen my name in search results. And that's how people find out about you. And that kind of sticks with people. You're a CFO, right? You need to think about how you invest in your business, in your career. I probably invested maybe $5,000 in my CCIE. That goes back 2008. And if I think about how much it enhanced my career, my earnings, the ROI on that investment, the return on that investment is phenomenal. One of my good friends, Chris Noon, just finished his VCDX 289. Well done, Chris. He's been working on this for almost 2 years. He's put in more than 300 hours of studying into in the process. But I can guarantee his career will take off now that he's passed this exam. So you must invest in yourself. That's definitely worth it. So you're also a CIO of your own business, of your own career. So you must invest in your tools. If investing $100 on a piece of software that automates lots of things for you, or on a new keyboard that is much better than the crap one you get on the MacBook Pro, and yeah, it's absolutely great value for money. I recently read this little book called The Extra Hour, and it gives lots of tips about creating more time in the day by automating things or getting new tools, and definitely worth a read. Anyway, so the main lessons here is invest in your tools if it makes you more productive and help you with your career goals, or if it just makes your life easier and nicer. So invest in your tools. Finally, you're the CEO of your career, the CEO of your business, right? So first, you have to pay attention to the trends in your industry, right? But you also need to understand where to diversify your business. And by this, I mean diversify your interests and your roles within your career. So even, if I look at what my actual title is, I'm officially a cloud solution architect, right? And what I do is being an architect with customers and build hybrid cloud architectures. I'm also a salesperson, right? I'm trying to get a customer to spend some money on the product I sell. But I'm also a trainer and a presenter, regularly enabling colleagues and customers and partners. And one of the things I do is technical marketing and blogging and writing books, um, learning from customers on, where they want the products to go. So I'm trying to innovate, try to improve the products. Um, and, I'm trying to get some patents. And I'm also trying to work with, technology partners like HashiCorp on better integrating their tools with our tools. And finally, I'm also a mediator between different business units within VMware, trying to improve integration points between all our products. And even outside of all this, I'm also a mentor. I'm a diversity advocate, passionate about inclusion and diversity, and making sure that minorities are well represented within VMware. So, just grow beyond your role. You're much more than just a job title. Now, back to the beginning. How do you actually justify that promotion? Now, if you follow some of the career tips I've shared, you found this kind of end career goal, and you've been filling in the gaps ever since. You have this kind of broad knowledge, but you also have this unique selling point that make you different. And you're unique. You've achieved some great things, and that no one else has, right? But you still need to prove your case, right? And justifying your promotion is a bit like being a lawyer and going in front of a judge. You want to have a rock solid case with no holes in it, right? So here's what I would do to essentially get the evidence for your case. You need some data, right? So first, build a portfolio of thanks, right? By this, I mean, go through all your emails and look back through every thanks you got from customers and partners and colleagues. If you work with people that are grateful, then you should have a decent portfolio of evidence that you can be, that you're actually pretty good at what you do. Have you got any award or recognition? Again, track them. Get quotes from customers, senior stakeholders, partners. Again, and if you don't have one already, just ask them. Usually, they're very happy to oblige. But you need to gather more data, right? And think about quantitative data and qualitative, right? So numbers are great in terms of, how many blog views have you got? How many views on YouTube have you got? If you presented at a webinar, you had 200 people, great. Now, if the feedback scores on your webinar were rubbish, then it's terrible, right? So you must not only show quantitative data, but qualitative data when you build your case for promotion. Now, if you work for a vendor like VMware, have you done anything to influence products? Have you improved the documentation, found some bugs, or found a new feature? Again, document this and find some evidence. If you work, for say a partner or professional services, and you've helped a customer achieve, deliver a project, again, recall this, and again, find some relevant project data. Like, for example, I helped customer X move 3,000 VM to the cloud with no interruption on time, and it helps the customer save X amount of cash because they shut down the data center early and get money back on their lease. Just an example, but again, look back through your projects and have some KPIs that you can report on. Now, if you work for a customer, again, look back through your projects. Think about what was the impact to your business or your organization. Did it improve the user experience for your colleagues? Did it land more business? Did it offer new digital services for your customers? And think about any business KPIs that you can link your influence to. Right? For example, if you work for a bus company in IT and your project, reduce waiting times for passengers, and that matters. You had an influence in improving the life for the customers of your business. So anyway, I could go on and on. What I would love to is continue this conversation on LinkedIn. You can find me on again using my name, Nicolas Vibert, or on Twitter on Nick972. Happy to continue this conversation. Thanks very much for watching, and take care. Bye bye.